Okay, good morning. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, temporary substituting for Rabbi Reuven Levitt. We're approaching Pesach, so we're learning Hagaddah of Pesach here at Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi, located in Yerushalyim and HaKodesh. We're in the middle of the Hagaddah, at the very beginning part. The Tsama only. What is it? Of the four sons, you have the first, the Chacham, then the Rasha, then you have a Tam, and then finally She'enu Yidei Rishon. Tom, what does the Tom say? Yeah, go ahead.
Tom, Mahu Omer. Ma Zos. What is this?
This.
Va'amarta alav, and you will say to him, B'chozek yad, with a strong hand, Hoksi anu, we were brought out, Hashem, by God, from Mitzrayim, base Avadim, from the house of slavery. So you give him a very simple statement summarizing what it's about.
Right, very clear and brief, essential explanation of what it's all about.
But this seems odd to me because the Tom, hey, he's not a Chacham, he's not a Rasha. But he's not a nothing.
You're right, of course not.
It would seem that you would give him a more lengthy explanation. It seems that you would answer him more like you would answer the Chacham. Maybe not with all the technical details because he's not a Chacham, so he's not going to be into necessarily all the football.
Right.
But you would think that you wouldn't just give him a general, one sentence answer.
When he says ma'azos, it says what's this? So we have to try and understand what's meaning. Again, the Chacham said, yeah, what are all these cooking,
right?
Mishpatim, Edus, Mishpatim, Asher Tziva Hashem Elokeinu Eschem. Right. So he obviously sees a lot of things going on here.
Right.
The Rush also says, "Ma avoda zoslechem." What's this avoda? Right.
Right.
So we're getting from very specific from the Chacham to a little bit more general, but still somewhat specific. Ma avoda zoslechem. And finally, we come to the Tam. He says Ma zos, but he didn't even say what. It's referring to the Chukim, it's referring to the Mishpatim, the Eidos is referring to the Avoda. Ma zos. What is the catalyst for the Tom's question? Okay, and maybe we want to understand what's the catalyst for Tom's question. Maybe we can now then begin to understand the response. So some of the explanations are like this, as this. Rashi, the Siddur Rashi explains as follows: a Tom, he's not a Chacham, he's not a Rasha. El Tamim, he's Tamim.
Right.
Ve'enu chacham l'shol ma eidos v'chlim mishpatim, l'farash l'shol ma al kol davar v'davar. Ela mazos, he's not seeing things in specifics. He's just seeing a general situation in front of him. He says mazos. What's this? What's this? So if you want to, you can't explain to him something specifically, because if you're trying to respond, when a person asks you a question, the first thing you have to try and understand is the dasa show, the mindset of the person who's asking the question, right? Because you want the answer to reach its mark. You want the answer to be effective in obviously in dealing with intelligent human beings. They have a question, right? So you have to try and give them a satisfactory answer that's going to be mentally satisfying to their question that's being asked. So when you just see him saying mazos, so how are you supposed to judge and understand what's the catalyst for this question? What's the dasa show? What is the person here asking the question? What is his wonderment about what's going on? Why is he asking such a question in such a way? If he says, why is this paper white? Say, okay, because you can tell him it's not black. That's why it's white. You tell him because it's easy to bleach the wood that way. And then you can give him a quote different, but he's asking a stupid question. You can respond to him specifically. This is mazos. So now how we're trying to analyze our response, how are we supposed to reach this person? How are we supposed to analyze his question when it's such a general mazos? There's a joke. A fellow goes to see a doctor. So he sits down by the table of the doctor, and he's looking at him. So the doctor looks at him back, and after a couple of minutes, no one's saying anything. The doctor says, "What's wrong with you?" He says, "You're the doctor, you tell me."
That's cute.
So how are you supposed to, what's going on? So let's see. Well, I'll explain some more what the that was the Parish Rashi.
Let me ask you the opposite question.
Sure. Okay.
So, why all these details? With a strong hand.
Oh.
Why don't you just answer in the way he asked and just say, Hashem took us out of Egypt.
Right.
Why do we need the strong hand and the house of slavery? All these. Why is it throwing in so many details?
Good. Okay. Good. All right. Good. We'll get there. Hold on.
Hey, Roy.
Oh, look at Hashem. We were just wondering
Speak
about
of the tzaddik. Speaking of the
Here,
tzaddik.
have a seat. Have your seat. The seat has been waiting for you. We discussed the Chacham, we discussed the Rosh, and now we're discussing the Tam. And we'll get to the end of the Yerushalyim soon as well. No.
Came in a
You
perfect.
had another half of it.
I don't know how hard it was for you to get into it. Give that smile. No, it's okay. It's just that I'll get it lost. If I want another cup of coffee, at least I'll have it here. Okay. Tell us about your adventures another time. Tell us about your adventures another time. No adventures, that's right.
All right.
So we're discussing what the situation of the time is. And he's asking very straightforwardly mazos, right? So when you're faced with a question like that, so how are you supposed to try and understand what's the catalyst of the question? We're not being specific, so you can't answer him specifically, right? So that's what they explain. Right? They explain what is a Parish Rashi. Sheni Yodei Lefarish, he doesn't know to be specific. Will show al kol davar davar, to ask about each and everything. Huh? Because again, this is also all these four sons are based on psukim, right? Based on the pasuk. If the pasuk says, "Ki shalcha bincha mochar mazos," it's going to ask you mazos. Maybe it's worth seeing the pasuk. You can move the dollars. We'll get some rushing.
Why maybe what tam? It's a simple. What is there? Any other connotations to the word? What's the word literally mean? Does it literally mean simple or what?
No. So for that we have to go. It's a very good question. I wanted to get to that point. Yaakov Avinu was called an Ish Tam. If you remember.
Yes.
So that's very important, Gilon. Okay. You take a look, I think that should be in Parshas Toldos, if I'm not mistaken. Parshas Toldos, Bereshis. As we finished by Sefer Shlomo, so we started Parshas Vayikra this weekend. Should be toward the beginning if I'm not. Actually, a little bit toward the beginning. Yes, it's on Perek, chapter Chav Hey, Pasuk Chav Zayin.
So there's a bit after Shlach, before.
Before that.
Before Shlach.
Chav Hey, should be Chav Hey, that should be. No, I give you Shmos here, well, that's wrong. The wrong one. Shmos, Bereshis.
Shmos?
Oh, no, here,
What is
Bereshis.
it?
Bereshis.
See, we don't even know where our, we don't even know where there's something like
Okay. Pasuk.
What pasuk was it?
What did you say?
Yes,
Okay.
Pasuk.
Kaisar I have.
Okay, Chav Zayin. Have it there? Where did I leave that?
Oh, I see, that's a coffee, that's it, right. Vayigdalu, Hanarim,
Esav.
Ish, Yedaya, Sayid, Ish, Sadea, Vayakov, Ish, Tam, Yashay,
Elohim. So the lads grew up, they matured. Esav ish yodei tzayid. And Esav was a person who knew trapping, hunting. Ish Sadi, he was a person of the field. So Yaakov ish tam. Yaakov was a ish tam. I'm not going to define ish tam now. We'll see what Rashi says. Yoshev Olim. He sat in tents. Okay? Let's take a look at Rashi's here. Yigdal Nari. Have it there. Right. Continue for a second. Right? The lower left-hand column.
Oh, yes, I do. Excuse me. Vayigdalu Hanarim Vayehi Asaf. Kol Zaman Shayu Katanim Lo Hayu Nakarin B'Ma'asayim.
Right. The whole mind that they were still children, they weren't recognizable through their actions, right? You don't pay attention too much to children's actions. You know, based on the spur of the moment, you don't pay attention too much to the children's actions.
Ve'ein Adam Medakdek Kahem Ma Tivon Kivon Shinasu Bnei Shalosh Esrei Shana Ze Torosh Levatei Yidroshos Kaze Paresh Va'avadas
Elilim. Elilim.
Va'avadis
Avodas Elim.
Va'adas Elilim.
Right. So that the person who calls the whole time that the people are children, so they're not recognizable through what they do. When a person is not going to be careful about what they're doing. Ma'ativim, what's the nature of this person who's doing all these things, right? Now, Kevin Shanasa bin Bnei Shloshas, when they became bar mitzvah, 13 years old, Zeh perished the batim medrashis. This one, Yaakov went off to the base medrash, right, the yeshivas, And this one, Esau, Parish Avodah Zarah, he went off to Avodah Zarah.
How does that fit with the midrash that when they were in the womb already, Yaakov was going towards the Beis Midrash and Esau was going towards the Beis Avodah Zarah.
Right.
If they don't show their inclination until they're 13, then how are they showing it when they're in the womb?
Right. So when there's just a inclination, right? There's no external disguise for what they're doing, so that Rivka was feeling the push here and the push there, right? But when they're out and they're actually operating in the world, right? So they're people looking at them, they don't see, right? They don't see that, you know, where they're eventually going, right? They're just, you know, doing things, and you ask a child while he's doing it. The child can't even answer things while he's doing things himself. Spontaneous, child just spontaneous. So you're not careful about what a child does because he's so spontaneous, right? That you don't pay too much attention to what he's doing. The person's already 13 years old now, becoming mature, mentally mature, physically mature. So now you have to pay more attention to what they're doing.
In the womb.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You were saying. You think?
Yeah.
In the womb, we're probably according to Midrash, I suppose. Midrash. We're quite developed really because Torah is taught to us, and I assume that because it's taught to us, it's a two-way communication, maybe. But we're not so simple in the womb. It's when we come out that we're divested of all this dust.
Right.
That would affect. Sorry, that would affect us. So in the womb, maybe we've got this more substance to what we are than when we emerge.
Yeah, when you're that status of being in the womb, the person's he's there in his essence, without all the outward influence of the environment. Right? But Rashi is basically coming to explain why at this point. What's the Torah explained to us? Yigdal Anari, right? And then at that point, the Torah explains that Esav is an Ish Nodei Tzayed and Ish Soda, and Yaakov becomes an Ish Tam, Yoshev Oilim. Why at that particular point after Yigdal Hanari? So Rashi is explaining that the ability to actually categorize a person doesn't begin until he's at least bar mitzvah. You can't categorize a person as being this or that until he's at least bar mitzvah. Before then, there's no basis for any categorization.
So the four sons, they're all post bar mitzvah.
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe also the word come has nuances according to its setting.
Yeah, that could also be within the context.
So here it's a different setting, completely different setting to the Hagaddah.
Okay, well, haven't gotten. Well, let's see. Have to see what Rashi says further. Let's see further. Right, Esav. Right, Esav was Yodei Tzayid. Go ahead.
The tzod,
to hunt, trap. Yodei Tzayid. He knew how to trap.
Ramos es Abayu.
Aviv, his father.
Oh,
Aviv.
Aviv. Bafiv. Mashallah. Abba. Hayah. Masharin is Hamalach. I can't tell what it is. ואס הטבן כסבור אביו שהוא מדקדק במצוות.
Okay. Right, so in Judea side, to trap, and also the Ramos Esaviv in order to, and also to fool his father through his mouth, through his speech. Sholi Mabi, he would ask his father Yitzchak, how do you take maishras tithes off of the salt, and also from the straw.
The what? Straw?
Straw, the straw. Because he wanted to do this. He was trying to fool his father Yitzchak in order the father should believe that he was medaktik the mitzvah. He was scrupulous in keeping the mitzvahs, which he wasn't, but he wanted to give the impression that he was. Now, Ish Sadeh, he was an Ish Sadeh, Rashi.
Ish Sadeh, Kamishma Dam, Otto, Tzara, Kashta Hayos.
So he was an Ish Batel, meaning he was someone who was not without work. And so he did Kashta Hayos Oifos, and he would trap, right? He would trap those animals that he could catch in by his bow and arrow. And then wild animals and birds, right?
So he was idle in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean he wasn't involved with any work. He was roaming, roaming on the range, as they say, The ranges in Australia, right? People roam around the range also.
Oh, yeah. And yet being a good hunter requires a lot of skill.
Yeah,
He must have worked hard at it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he put forth his efforts, but it wasn't as if he was devoted to any practical endeavors. He was good, sport hunting, just for the sport of it, not that it was, just catching good meals at home.
Right.
Didn't have to,
right.
Just.
So he did the minimal he could get away with.
Yeah, look, I mean, most, people were sport hunters, where they, probably people were, well off. And, of course, he's hunting for his food, so it's just basic necessities.
Right.
All these big game hunters, I mean, I was once in a person's house, he had all these heads all over his head.
Right.
Each person.
Yeah. But that's a little different because he, he's wealthy. He probably hires people to support him. He's got a whole entourage that goes with him. He's got a very expensive weapon. Whereas we're talking here about a bow and arrow. That's a lot different.
Nevertheless, we get, this is what he occupied his extra time. This is his leisure time.
Right.
Right. Tom, the shin. Oh, that's a reference to the Iker Susi Chachamim at the bottom of the page. That's a further explanation of the Rashi. So now, Tom, now we come to what is the Tom that we've been waiting for?
Tom. Aina Aki. B'chol Eila.
He's not Bucky B'chol. He's not expert in all of this. I mean, what is all of this? In the trickery and in the trapping and all these things. Well, not interested in these kind of things. Ella, what was he interested in? Well, what was he like? What was his essence?
Kalibo came Piv Mi Shana Harif Laramos Karo Tam.
Okay, so it says here, this is what we came for, this is what we need to know. Ela kilibo kain piv. Just as his thoughts, so is his piv. I mean, he speaks his mind truthfully, right? He speaks his mind truthfully. Misha Eida Chorif, the Ramos Koritam. A person who's not Chorif, he's not sharp to fool people, to trick people. He's called a Tam. He's called a Tam. Right? So that was Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, his leiv and his piv was, he always told the truth. Right? He didn't try and fool people by being deceitful. Right? Number one. And also, he wasn't trying to be anyway deceitful. That's a person who's a Tam. He's not
He's a straightforward person.
Yeah, straightforward. Yeah.
So if we apply this now to Hagaddah,
Yes.
how does that work?
Very good. I was waiting for you to tell me.
Oh, all right.
Well, he's a straightforward person, and he says, what is this? So he says, what is this? He's not like the Rasha who has an ulterior motive, who's saying, what is this? It's really not, what is this nonsense? But he's not saying, what is this nonsense? He's just saying, what is this? He's honestly saying, what is this? He wants to know.
What is this? Right. And he's saying specifically what's on his mind. He's saying very honestly, so what is this? What is all this about? Right? That's simply what he wants to know. He's bewildered in some way or another about what's occurring, right? And he wants to know what this is about.
So the Tam is so can we say that the Tam in Hagaddah is ingenuous? He's an honest person,
right.
and he just wants to know what's going on.
Right.
But that doesn't mean he's stupid.
Doesn't
It doesn't mean he's ignorant.
Does not mean just.
I mean, he's ignorant of this, but it doesn't
Right.
mean he's ignorant of other things.
Right.
So we can't sort of treat him as someone who sort of goes around dribbling from the mouth and stuff like that.
Not at all. Look at the next Rashi. Yaakov Avinu. We're describing Yaakov Avinu here. Yoshev oiling. He sat in tents. What does it mean, sat in tents? Rashi says. The third line there, third line, right column, third line.
Yoshev oiling. Allah shall shame v'hala shall ava.
Aver.
Aver?
Shame ve'aver, right? So he sat in the tents of shame
So
and the tent of aver. These were the two major yeshivas of the time. This is where the Torah of HaKodesh Baruch was being taught. In the tent, the base medrash, the yeshiva of shame, and in the tent, the base medrash of aver. So he sat in that's why it's Yoshev oil in plural. And so Rashi explains why the plurality here. That because one was from shame and one was from aver. Obviously, he's sitting in the base medrash, right? He's not simply being foolish and silly and simple in the base medrash. He's obviously being intellectually active.
I thought he went to Shem Ve'aver after he left, after the incident with the bracha.
Good point. That's where Rashi explains about it, right? But two ways to answer. First of all, it could be that this was not what he's necessarily doing at that present time, but it's that was his career. His career was sitting in yeshivas. So it could be not even if he wasn't doing it at the time. That was his career.
I see.
Or he could have been doing it. He could have gone back. He could have been there and gone back.
Right.
Because the Hagaddah took place. Well, one second. No, we made a mistake here. The Hagaddah, that was Yitzchak who went to Arab for the Hagaddah. It was Yitzchak's father.
Who did what?
Yitzchak was the one who went to the yeshiva after the Hagaddah.
I heard that when Yaakov left, Rivka says to Yaakov, "Go to my brother."
After that's the end of what Parshas told us, right? That's the end of the
So I heard that what he did was first he went to Shem and Aver. He spent 14 years there.
Oh, good, so good, yeah.
He spent 14 years there.
Right.
And then he went to Yaakov.
Right, but that was in
spent 20
Beersheba. He could have been there already. That was in the same hometown. The hometown was Beersheba.
So it could have been he went there, and then after this incident, he went back,
Could be.
rather than going directly to
That's right.
Uvam.
Good. Thank you. Okay. So what we prove from here is that a tam is not necessarily considered to be simple. He doesn't have to be considered simple. Could be rather very straightforward. He's a straightforward, honest
Right.
person.
He's simple in terms of wickedness.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
not.
in contrast
he's not,
to
he doesn't have
the deceitful, right?
the deceitfulness or the. Right.
Okay, now, this brings us to the point where the Tam does know about the Hagaddah.
Yes.
So that means he's asking what? I think he's asking, do you know what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
He says, what's the question in the Hagaddah?
Mazos. What is this?
Mazos. What is this? What is this?
That seems disingenuous. If he knows the halacha, if he's very learned, then it seems disingenuous to say, what's this?
No, I think what it is like a father comes across a son who's doing something, and the father knows all sorts of things, probably even knows what the son is doing. Says, what's this? What are you doing? Do you understand what you are doing? Do you know what it's all about? That's what he's asking. He's asking us if we know, because he knows he's in Yeshiva. It means he's not. He probably had been through what you call Sidorim. He knows what they're about. So, what is this? He's addressing it to us.
Right. Okay. So.
Asking us if we understand what we are doing.
Right. So now take a look at Shmos. Take your Chumash Shmos.
Oh, that's this one.
Yeah. Let's go to, now it's going to get more complicated here.
Do we close this?
You can close it if you like. I don't think we'll refer to it again. In Yud Gimel. Parrot Yud Gimel. Parrot Yud Gimel. Pasuk Yud Dalet.
Then you have to insist you gave me a time. So it's not fair to do that.
What did you say? Sorry.
Pasuk Yud Dalet. This is our pasuk here.
Yud.
Should I read?
Sure, have it be right.
Pasuk
Parrot Yud Gimel.
Yud
Yud Dalet.
Yud Ches.
That's right. Yud.
Oh, I see. It's Hayah.
That's right. Go ahead.
Haya ki yish'alcha, and it will be when he will ask you,
There's,
bincha.
Reuven, there's more than toaster oven in it.
Yeah, there's more food in there for you.
Do you want to take over or you want to...
Okay. I mean, you could. I don't want to be.
All right, we'll finish up in the middle of the time and
Yeah.
finish up another 10 minutes or so.
Stay there.
Okay, good.
It will be when your son will ask you.
Sorry, say it again.
It will be when your son will ask you. Mechar.
Machar.
Tomorrow. Lemor, saying, Mazos, what is this? Va'amarta, and you will say alav to him, V'chozek yad, with a strong hand, Hotzi enu, Hashem brought us out, Mimitzrayim, from Mitzrayim, Mibes avadim, from the house of slavery. Vayihi ki hiksha, and it will be,
Yeah.
when hiksha, I don't know hiksha.
Hardy.
Oh, when it will be when will harden Paro lishalchenu to send Vayaharog Hashem, and slew Hashem kol bechor, all the firstborn, be'eretz Mitzrayim, in Egypt, bechor Adam, from the firstborn of a man, va'ad bechor behema, and even the firstborn of animals. Al Cain, therefore, ani zoveach Lashem, I am something to God.
I'll sacrifice. I'll sacrifice to Hashem.
I will sacrifice to Hashem. Kol peter rechem, all the firstborn. Hazecharim, as a remembrance. Bechol bechor, of all the firstborn. B'nei efdeh. Children of something.
They will be redeemed. Right. So now back to the first pasuk.
All the firstborn will be redeemed.
Yeah. So it says, when your son will ask you in the future and tomorrow, they will say Mazos. So he asks Mazos, and in Martha you say to him, as we say in the Hagaddah, there's a straight quote from the pasuk in the Hagaddah that we have. Take a look at Rashi. Yudal, when your son will ask you tomorrow. That's in the third line in the upper part of the left-hand counter.
Okay, got it. Chamesh Salayim.
Then one second, where you are.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm the wrong one.
Yudal.
Yesh Machar. It will be tomorrow. Shehu Achshav, that he is now. V'yesh Machar, and it will be tomorrow. Shehu La'achar,
There is the expression machar, tomorrow. Rashi explains it has two connotations. Yesh machar shu akshav is a tomorrow which is now, meaning the actual next day from today. Yesh machar shu la'achar zman, and there's a machar which is going to be distant in the future. Right?
Got it.
In this case, it's distant in the future. It's not asking, the person not referring to machar, meaning the next day in Mitzrayim. It's talking about sometime in the future. We could go in.
Machar, Amru, they said, B'nechem, your children, Livanenu, our children, Divnei, God,
It's referring to
B'nei God, B'nei Reuven.
That's talking about, that's at the end of the 40 years. That's when they will be talking about that they wanted to take over slavery every yard days. That's the 40 years hence. Right? So that's what Rashi explained. The Lashon Machar can reference to something which is immediate, meaning tomorrow in actuality. And it can be tomorrow, meaning in sometime in the future, even if it's distant. Now,
In this case, it's the future.
Yeah. Now this is what we need here. Now this is going to cause difficulties. Mazois. This is what, yes, mazois.
What is this?
Yeah.
Zeh Tinok Tish.
This is a foolish child. This is our common conception of the Tam. He's a simple child, right? He's a Tinok Tipper. She's a foolish, simpleton, right?
She'eno Yodea, he doesn't know that She'e Lasso, to construct a question.
Amik, meaning to give depth to his question. Amik from Amik, right? Amik is a crevice, is a valley or something, right? Amik l'shalos, he doesn't know how to give depth to his question.
V'sosem v'shoel ma zot.
So therefore, sosem means in this case like he's generalizing. And he's generalizing in shoel mazois. He's generalizing. He asks simply, mazois, what's this? He's not being specific in any way. That's why we're in trying, as I said at the beginning, you're trying to figure out what's the das show, what's the catalyst of this person's question. He's not being specific in his question, right? He's just asking, what's this? So how are you supposed to answer him? You know, you don't know You don't know what's stimulating his question, and you should be asking a question to you. Just said Mazois. Like I told you about the doctor, right? The guy goes to the doctor, he's sitting there watching, looking at the doctor, looking at him. So finally the doctor says, "What's wrong with you?" He says, "You're the doctor, you figure it out."
Right.
Mazois. He says, how are you supposed to answer him? Well, what's bothering him that he's asking a question?
Right. Umakom acher, in another place, who it Omer says, Ma ha'edus v'ha'chukim v'ha'mishpatim ego. Another place, which is referring to the Chacham, it says what are the laws, the statutes, and the ordinances. Array zos, behold this she'e las question ben Chacham is of the son who is the Chacham. Dibra Torah. Torah says keneged arba'a banim, corresponding to 4 sons.
Right. Exactly.
Tam, Rasha, v'she'eno yodea lish'ol, v'hasho'el derech chachama.
Derech
Chachma. And the question is the way of the Chacham.
So, this last point in Rashi is a little bit needs some address. So it says, "Keneged the Dibur Torah, Keneged Arbabon." The Torah is making reference to 4 specific sons: the Tam, the Rasha, Shein Yodea, and the 4th one is a Shoel Derech Chachma. He's asking Derech Chachma, right? So this is the question of the Tam. Then you have the question of the Rasha. Then you have the question of the Ein Yodea Shoel. Finally, you have the Shoel who's asking in a wise way, right? So
how do we understand Yaakov Ish Tam?
Oh, very good.
Given this Rashi.
Yep, very good, very good. How do you understand what the Torah is referring to as Yaakov Ish Tam? And you hear have Rashi explaining the Mazois of a Tinuk Tipush. He's a foolish, somewhat foolish, idiotic, almost child.
And particularly, Rashi contrasts him to the Chacham.
Right?
Saying, see, the Chacham asks a good question,
Right.
implying the Tam asks not a good question.
Right. So, if you want to make one more reference, to Toldos, keep the Shmos open. Back to the Toldos for a minute here. The Targum. Look at the Targum. Pasuk of Zion you have here, right? Pasuk of Zion, you have the Targum. He says here, yeah, go ahead.
Urevi'u ule maya v'hava esav gavar.
Gavar is a person, a gavar is a person, Esav is a gavar is a person.
Nafshir Khan Givar Nafek Lahak La Yaakov Nivar Gavar Shalim.
Oh, that's it, stop. So Yaakov Gavar Shlim. The Targum says he was
Complete person.
Yeah, he was complete. Right? So the Targum, a little bit different than Rashi. Rashi explains it his way, and the Targum explains it his way as well. That Yaakov, what the Pasuk says, Ish Tam, Yaakov is Ish Tam, the Targum says Yaakov was an Ish Shlim. He was a complete person. Right? Complete person. So, in contrast to Esau, that's number 1. And also with this we can maybe begin to understand what the Rashi is telling us about the Ish Tam, the Shiloh, the Ben Tam, who's Rashi calls him a Tinik Tipush, right? A Ish Tam, Ish Shlim. So you have people who, that in spite of, let's say, even a lack of intelligence, right? But that makes, nevertheless, within their own personality, within their makeup, they're considered to be perfect. I mean, that's what they are. That's what they mean. They're not. Meaning, for example, let's contrast with the Russia. Okay, Russia obviously is not perfect. In fact, there's a Russia. There's a lack. There's a lack there. Right. Sheni Yodei Lishol. The very words that we're using are showing that he's lacking. Right. He's lacking that. You can't even ask. Right. A tam, if we go along with what Rashi says here, the tam is a tinik tipush, right? He's shenu yodei la'amik shaloso. Meaning, tipish is sometimes, we'll have to maybe work more on the definition of what tipish means. Tipish in the common vernacular may not be what Rashi is referring to a tipish. Tipish he might be in terms of tipish meaning be simple, meaning shenu yodei la'amik shaloso. He has a question. He is perceptive, right? But he doesn't know how to develop his question properly. Meaning there's a phrase of Chazal that says, Shailas Chacham Chetzi Tshuva. From the half of the question of the wise person, you have, right, Shailas Chacham Chetzi Tshuva. From the question of a wise person, you already have half your answer. Because why? Because a wise person, when he's phrasing his question, will automatically be giving enough information in his question that you, the person trying to answer the question, will be directed towards satisfying his question. But the person's not, any idea la'amik shalos, he doesn't know how to specify his question enough that you can direct yourself to answering it properly, right? So that's what's lacking over here. The lack over here is that he doesn't give you anything to work with, right? The question, ma zois, you don't have anything to work with in terms of your answer. So what are you left with? You're left with the only answer you can give him. That's what the Torah says. But amar te'lav, you say, b'choizik yad hotzianu Hashem mitzrayim beis avedi. That with the outstretched arm, with a strong arm, meaning that literally means with miracles and wonders in a public way. HaKodesh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim from the house of our servitude. So you're telling him what Hashem did, and you're telling him where we came from, right? Basically 2 points of information. Hashem did it in a way that was wondrous with miracles, and he took us out of our slavery. I mean, you have to know that we were slaves, and Hashem took us out, redeemed us from a slavery in a miraculous way. That's all you can. That's your basic. That is your basic obligation for Leil Seder. You have to say two things basically. You have to say Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim in miraculous ways, wondrous ways, which was not necessary. He could have taken us out naturally without any. Could have caused earthquakes and tidal waves and destroyed Mitzrayim, right? And we could have escaped, from the tidal wave. Okay, it might have been a little bit strange why the Jews were specifically saved from that, but he didn't have to do it in a way with 10 matos, right? 10 plagues, and then the Yam Suf and everything else. And we have to realize what he did for us.
People who say it was natural.
Yeah, okay. We always have those people. And you have to mention that we came from a slavery, we were redeemed from slavery. Okay, but I think the only thing we have to try and understand now is Rashi's reference to this word tipish, which I think in the vernacular we have a somewhat of a negative connotation to it, which may not be true in terms of the way Chazal use that expression. Tipish may not necessarily be negative. I'm not saying the person should strive to be a tipish, but it may not be as negative a connotation as we may think it is. That I'll have to try and work on. Okay, I'll have to stop here. Continue Mitzvah Shem. Rabbi Levitt will be here tomorrow. Continue. That will-
Thank
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've done good.